The bloodiest war in history was born from the unextinguished ashes of the one before.
The harsh terms of the Versailles Treaty created deep anger and humiliation in Germany.
From this chaos, Adolf Hitler and his totalitarian ideology arose. Europe thought it could avoid war with a policy of appeasement, but it was wrong. September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland. The spark was lit. The ultimatum from Britain and France was rejected, and Europe found itself at war once more.
Humanity was being dragged towards a destruction never before seen.
Nazis used a new and brutal tactic called Blitzkrieg.
Tanks and planes quickly broke through defensive lines, shocking the enemy.
Denmark, Norway, Holland, and Belgium were crushed by this new war machine.
Biggest shock. France, thought invincible, surrendered in weeks.
The British Army, by a miracle, was evacuated from Dunkirk, saved from total annihilation.
The war now moved to the skies. The Battle of Britain had begun.
A portly, determined British leader's defiance inspired a nation standing alone against the authoritarian figure.
The authoritarian figure made his greatest mistake. He attacked his ally, the Soviet Union.
Operation Barbarossa opened the bloodiest front in the history of warfare.
Simultaneously in the Pacific, the Japanese Empire expanded with ruthless ambition. December 7th, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the American fleet at Pearl Harbor.
A date which will live in infamy. America was now in the war.
The war had now truly become a world war. The Axis powers were at their peak. The Axis powers' advance seemed unstoppable, but the tide was about to turn. Turning point in the Pacific, the Battle of Midway. The U.S. dealt a crushing blow to the Japanese fleet.
The turning point on the Eastern Front, the Siege of Stalingrad. The brutal winter and Soviet resistance completely annihilated a German army.
After clearing North Africa, the Allies landed in Italy, the soft underbelly of Europe. The enormous American industry had awakened, and the fate of the war was now changing. Behind the war fronts, history's darkest crime was being committed. The regime's devastating plan led to the systematic persecution of Europe's Jewish people. Millions were imprisoned. Jewish people, Romani, disabled, and dissidents confined to ghettos. Death camps like Auschwitz became industrial machines of genocide.
This systematic savagery opened a wound in humanity's honor that will never heal.
The Holocaust showed that war was not just about land, but also targeted souls.
The Allies were preparing for history's largest military operation to liberate Europe. June 6, 1944, D-Day. History's largest amphibious landing began in Normandy. Thousands of ships and planes carried Allied soldiers to breach deadly German defenses. On beaches like Omaha and Utah, a terrible price was paid for freedom. This bloody landing was the beginning of France's liberation and the end of the war. The Allies from the West, the Soviets from the East, entered a race towards Berlin. Trapped between two fronts, Nazi Germany was on the verge of collapse. Hitler's last desperate attack, the Ardennes offensive, was repulsed. The Soviet Red Army entered Berlin, and the city became the war's final, bloody arena. In Italy, Mussolini was captured and executed. April 30th, 1945, the regime's leader met his final moment in his bunker. A few days later, Germany unconditionally surrendered. The war in Europe was over. Despite the end of the war in Europe, the fight against Japan raged on in the Pacific.
Each island was a fortress, and the battles were savage beyond imagination.
Japan introduced desperate tactics, including the terrifying kamikaze attacks. Meanwhile, a top-secret project in the US unlocked the power of the atom.
August 6th, 1945. The first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima.
3 days later, Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Japan surrendered unconditionally. World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, finally ended. The world would never be the same.
See you on the next page of history.